What is going on, everyone? It is me, Lone Vault Wanderer, and I'm making a video on Bioshock because I haven't done so in a while, and I'm trying to keep my channel fresh with new content. And also importantly as well, 2K has been releasing some really interesting things on their 2K blog. What they've been doing is actually releasing articles about the development of Bioshock, and not just the game itself, but its characters, the world of Rapture, some of the enemies, and the one that I want to concentrate on today is the one entitled Beyond the Sea, the beginning of Bioshock's Big Daddy. Now the full blog post is listed in the description below, and I highly recommend that you actually go and read it because I'm not going to be covering every single ounce of information in this video. I think that would be unfair, and I really want to encourage you to read this article because it contains a lot of interesting information about Bioshock's Big Daddies and how they actually came to be, and I want to touch on it slightly, but again, links in the description below. And by the way, I'll also link some of the other articles that came out as part of this Beyond the Sea article series that 2K is doing on their blog. Again, they have one about Rapture, they have one about splices. They'll all be linked in the description below, and I might do separate videos on those other articles if this one does relatively well, so let me know if you want to see that in the comments below. But for now, let's talk about Bioshock's Big Daddy and how they actually came to be. So the article does contain some interesting tidbits, just generally talking about how Big Daddies were initially called protectors, about how the design of Big Daddies was based on 1900s style diving suits, and also as well some really early concept art for the Bouncer and Rosie Big Daddies that of course eventually made their way to the game. What did not make their way to the game, however, were two different types of variants of the Big Daddies, initially called the Slugbug and the Slowpro Big Daddy, and I want to talk about those individually and actually show you the concept arts that 2K released on their blog. But again, read the full article, it contains more information. So as you can see on the screen right now, the Slugbug Big Daddy had a number of different concept designs, one of which actually had the Big Daddy being a female, which is very interesting because as my memory recalls, the Big Daddies were actually male and then the Big Sisters were female. I could be wrong in that. I cannot remember for the life of me, but I just assumed that that was the case. So it is very interesting that these concept arts have the Big Daddies as potentially being female. Again, if I'm wrong about that, shoot me down now. But just have a look at the Slugbug Big Daddy. It looks absolutely fucking awesome, doesn't it? It pretty much has like this parasite slug sitting on the helmet of the Big Daddy and kind of like wrapping its tentacles through the opening of the helmet and just protruding out of other orifices. It just looks absolutely awesome and gruesome, and in my personal opinion, really does fit the world and setting of Rapture. It truly does. Unfortunately though, this type of Big Daddy never made its way past the concept art stage, so seemingly they never even tried to make some models to incorporate them in the games themselves, which I think is unfortunate, but that's how development goes. Having a look at some of the information we have on the concept art on the screen, we have descriptions talking about how there's bloody slime oozing from the cracks in the eye ports, the suit is really tarnished, there are these two big hooks at the end of the arms of the Big Daddy, which seems to suggest to me that this Big Daddy was meant to be more of an up close and melee style Big Daddy as opposed to the Rosie, and that would have been fucking awesome to see because then you have the Rosie Big Daddy, which is a bit more ranged and distant. And then in Bioshock 2, they introduced the Rumbler Big Daddy and also the Alpha Series Big Daddy. And then in the Minerva's Den DLC, there was the Lancer Big Daddy. We all know how notoriously hard the encounters with the Big Daddies were, and your best defense essentially was trying to get as much distance away from the Big Daddy as you possibly could. But with the Slugbug, it would have countered that completely, so perhaps you had to make much more use of traps, for example, to try and counter this beast. So yes, really interesting information. Also, some of the other descriptions talk about a glass jar that's full of plasmid, maybe that's some sort of energy for the Big Daddy, and then there is the slime that should be a transparent yellow in color with red blood mixed in, and I'm assuming that this blood is coming from this particular parasite slug sitting on top of the head of the Big Daddy. But what I really like as well is not just the hooks coming from the hands, but also have a look at the legs. They're kind of like, just as the concept art talks about, two like circular aluminium tanks. I think it's just like this kind of Frankenstein's concoction of a Big Daddy with random parts chucked together. I think it looks like an absolutely awesome concept art, and I'm really saddened by the fact that we didn't see this Big Daddy actually make its way to the games. Yes, the Big Daddies in and of themselves are hypnotized in protecting him, the little sister, etc. But this Slugbug Big Daddy seems like it's being controlled or would be controlled by the parasite slug sitting on his head, so maybe that could have made the Big Daddy a bit more volatile. Maybe the slug parasite sitting on the helmet is a bit more aggressive or a bit more defensive of the little sister, because you know that the Big Daddies in the Bioshock games don't attack you on sight, they only attack you when you actually make the first move. So maybe the Slugbug could have been one of those really dangerous Big Daddies that you always had to keep a distance from, and if you didn't, it would attack you straight away. That would have been so fucking awesome that I think could have provided a much needed change of pace to the typical formula of your Big Daddy. You know, you get your resources together, you get prepared, you have a game plan to attack this Big Daddy, you reload all your weapons, you make sure you know which weapons you're going to be using, set your traps, and then make the first move. But with the Slugbug, if it attacked you straight away, again, because this parasitic slug on the top of its head felt threatened, then you would have to throw your game plan into the fucking bin and then just defend yourself at all costs. I think that would have made for absolutely epic encounters with these kinds of Big Daddies. But then we also had another Big Daddy that this 2K blog talked about. This, however, did seemingly anyways make it past the concept art stage of Bioshock and unfortunately was cut late in development from the original Bioshock. The blog stated the following about the Slowpro Big Daddy. A big question for it was how his weapon was going to fire. We were still pretty unclear on that. Then when I found what actually helped me finish him off, a sketch by Leonardo da Vinci of a diving suit. It's a big leather suit that had this mask that was this wooden card with a lens on it that was connected to a watertight suit by this leather bag or bladder that had little windows in it. And it was very strange. I really liked it, so I tried to adapt it to the way the suit fit for the Rosies. Essentially, it would hunker down and launch these devastating shells from an arm-mounted cannon, but it came too late and got left behind. Now, while environment artist Nate Wells was kind of saddened by the fact that they couldn't include the Slowpro Big Daddy in the original Bioshock, of course we got the Rumbler Big Daddy in Bioshock 2, which essentially filled a similar role, in essentially being this tank-style Big Daddy with a shoulder-mounted RPG that shot rockets. So yes, while it's really great that the Slowpro Big Daddy became the Rumbler Big Daddy in Bioshock 2, which I still think was a great game by the way, I don't really believe we had anything similar come from the Slugbug concept art, and that's really unfortunate, but again, I do understand how development goes. So anyways, Wastelanders, let me know what you think about all of these concept arts in the comments below. Again, I might make more videos about these particular blog articles that 2K is releasing about Bioshock. Really interesting stuff, all linked in the description below again. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.